Call the meeting to order of the,
One moment.
sorry. Oop, sorry. Good, thank you. Call the meeting to order of the Newtown Township Finance Committee, November 19th, 2025. We'll start with a roll call. Lisa Purcell.
Here.
Larry Fisher.
Here.
Scott Trotter.
Here.
Rich Johnson.
Here.
Ed Naples here. Need to do a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item on the agenda, public comment for agenda items only. I see no public comment. I see no public. The next order of business is to consider the approval of this agenda. I need to make a motion to consider approving this agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Agenda approved. Minutes. We need a motion to consider approving the minutes from the October 15th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Okay, moved by member Purcell, approved, seconded by member Trotter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Minutes are approved. Boards, pass it to you, Steve. You don't have Tom here today, so I guess the minute will beat you up.
Yeah, that's good. I'm actually going to, if I.
Good.
Give me 1 second. So, I thought that the best way to spend our time today is to talk about the 2026 budget. I think we gave you kind of a quarterly or, 3/4 report last month. Just kind of got you up to where we were and what we have going on. I will tell you, we are looking this year probably being about as close to revenue versus expenses as we've had in quite a few years. Like, it's pretty tight. The last I looked at the proposed numbers for 2025, I'm actually looking at potentially being within about $50,000 of revenue versus expenses. Actually, right now I'm projecting about 4 is the gap. I think that'll change a little bit. I think we'll have a little bit more gap than that at the end of the day, just because I know our team tends to really watch the spending, and we watch it pretty closely. And if George was here, he wouldn't want me to say it, but if we have no snow between now and the end of the year, that will actually probably be the case. If we have a bunch of snow between now and the end of the year, we'll probably spend pretty close to the total budget that we were expecting. So we have had a fair number of repairs that we had to do on equipment this year that we hadn't counted on. And that's what happens is some of that older equipment that we've been kind of holding off on. But the board did just approve us replacing one of the trucks, and we're putting in for a second truck next year, one of the Mack trucks next year.
Tell me if I'm wrong. this will be the first year that I can recall, going back quite a few years, that there has not been a surplus.
I think there'll be a surplus. I just think it's going to be small.
I don't know, but I mean, okay. A significant surplus.
That's true.
I mean, this is something that you've been saying.
I've been saying was coming. It's finally here.
Yeah. Can't we, in the budget process, can't you find some more revenue? Can't you find some more revenue? And it finally has.
Yeah, I mean, we've settled, and which is what we knew was going to happen eventually. And this is that's why we've been trying to budget the way we have and saying, what is it that we think we're really going to be versus that. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what our 26 plans are. Feel free to ask any questions you want. This presentation I gave to the board at their last meeting. I'll just kind of go through that with you. This says 25 budget notes. It's actually, it's 26, and I thought I changed it, but it didn't save for whatever reason. Again, the 26 budget we put together with a comprehensive and strategic plan in our 4 focus. As I go over these, my focus is going to be on the things that are $1,000 or more difference. If it's a couple hundred, I'm not going to spend much time on it in that way. Just to give you an idea right now where we are, revenues we're projecting for 2026 to be $11,901,000, which is actually a $204,000 decrease from this year. And so that's what we're looking at. The expenses we're actually anticipating going up $854,000 over last year, and I'll talk about what makes most of that up. We are recommending using fund balance for 2 different items because we believe they're kind of at this point one-time items. That I think the deer hunt may become a yearly event at some point, but right now our focus for the deer hunt next year is to do 1 deer hunt and see what it does. But we may have to start doing that. I've been talking to a couple other townships that are doing it. They're doing it actually on an annual basis now to make it work. So we're going to have to see what that looks like. But we're going to start next year and see what we are able to accomplish. The other piece is we had 60,000 in this year's budget for the strategic plan. We needed to add another 60,000 to next year's budget. Again, that's something we do once every 10 years, pretty much. So we're okay using fund balance for that and not trying to increase what we need on a yearly basis for that purpose. Our current millage rate is 1.9777, which is a number that Tom and I should know off the top of our heads, but for some reason this morning I can't just even say it. Mostly because I'm looking at the next number down, which is 3,731,826,678, which was our total assessment. We actually got a new number last night, and I have that number and I can give it to you, but I haven't had a chance to update this with it. I think it's actually somewhere really pretty close to that. There's a little bit of an increase in it, but it's still pretty close to that. Real estate and third party are mostly up a little bit. And then we're looking at expenses, like I said, going down. And so we'll talk more specifically about each one of those. I will say personnel, there is one new addition that we put in the budget. We've been putting this position in the budget for about 5 years. We believe we need a custodial position in the building to keep the building clean. Right now, our public works team comes in and does it. They usually send over the whole team in the morning. That means there's 6 people in here for about an hour. That's 6 hours of labor that basically gets done to do cleaning. We're looking at saying if we had somebody in here on a full-time basis, it does 2 things. One is we know we need another person in the field. We've been talking about that need with Public Works, but if we put somebody in the building, we would have somebody who's focused on cleaning, and then we would be able to focus somebody we'd be able to focus the public works hours. We'd pick up all 6 of those hours again, which we would consider as a positive. The budget increase includes the contractual increases for the police. And that's set by the contract. That contract was approved last year. It's a 5-year contract. And so those pieces are already set,
Do you know what that percentage is for next year?
I do. It's a $3,000 increase plus 2.5% for next year.
In effect, a retention bonus of $3,000.
Well, it's a salary adjustment is what we're calling it
Okay.
over the period. When we did the police contract, we went and had, of course, they bring all of the top municipalities, but we really looked at the municipalities that were next to us. Equivalent. It's hard because you've got two of the municipalities we have next to us are Easttown and Willistown, even though they're not in Newtown, or even though they're not in Delaware County, but they start their police officers at a really high pay scale. And, when you're trying to compete against that, it's kind of a challenge. That's one of the issues. And then we put in an amount for everybody else. It's usually somewhere right around the amount that the Social Security increase is. That's how we've done that in the past. For health insurance, it's no longer expected. It is an increase of 7.4%. That's a definite now. It seems like a lot, but when you compare what's actually happening out in the market, it's actually not terrible. And when you understand that we went for 7 years without an increase at all, to have 2 years, one last year, I think we were at 6.9, and this year we're at 7.4. You kind of take those and say thank you, and that's where you are. It's still, when you're looking at health insurance for a single person, that's right at about 10,000. It's taken us over 10,000 now for a single, and then for a family, we're just about 30,000. So it's not cheap when you start looking at, about 40 plus people that get that benefit, and so you're going to see that much of the increase through this is related to wage increases and benefit increases that we have zero control over, basically. The contract set, there's not a lot I can do about changing those.
We have the uniform contract where 100% of that benefit is burdened by the township. Township bears that burden, excuse me. On the non-uniform side, I'm presuming then it's equal. In other words, the township is paying the entire premium as compared to splitting it with the employee.
That's not the case. So if you're talking about health insurance,
Yes.
And if I'm going to do this off the top of my head, just understand
Okay.
you're asking me, and I may be off a little
Yeah,
bit.
I realize it.
So we have high deductible plans for both the non-uniform and the uniform. The police in the last contract started contributing to their HSA. In the past, the township was funding the entire amount of the HSA. Actually, it was an HRA when I first came. And so whatever they used, if whatever their deductible was, we reimbursed them 100% of it. And we paid 100% of their premium. Then when we negotiated going to an HSA, and if you don't know the difference, one is you basically get your expenses reimbursed. The HSA is actually a savings account that you can take with you. The idea was that we could set what our amount was. And so we did that for the non-uniform employees first, and then we did it for the uniform employees in the next contract. And I want to say it's like 70-30 kind of deal, and I'd have to look at it exactly, but
Sure.
It's somewhere in that
We set
range.
it out on the road that the employee is starting to bear
some of that.
So they bear some responsibility. In terms
And
of what's
then,
going on.
and then with the non-uniform employees, probably about I think about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, we started having them contribute we pay 100% of the employee portion of the insurance. So
Yeah.
if, like, for example, my wife and I, we both take our insurance from our in respective employers. So the township's paying 100% of my health insurance as a single person on the plan.
Right.
And that's true for all people who are single. And then, so we said, as we're doing that, we'll do that for all employees. We'll pay that first portion. And then if they have dependent coverage, they pay 12% of the cost of the difference
Yeah.
between
Between the
the
single and the family.
employee
Yeah.
portion versus the dependent coverage.
You only offer them one plan?
We only offer one plan. Yes. And
You
it's
could
the
probably
high,
incentivize them if you said, hey, here's another plan with a higher deductible, you'll pay nothing.
The young ones.
Yeah.
The young families.
yeah, we might, I mean, we do have, I mean, our deductible's 5,000 now, for a family. So it's a reasonably high deductible.
Yeah, it is.
If for a single, it's 2,500. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there are higher out there, but we went with a
That's pretty
pretty
good, though.
high deductible to start. And that is the plan that we offer. The difference, when I first came, we paid 100% even of the deductible, and we're moving that back.
Okay.
So, and so that's where we are with that. Any other questions?
Great.
I would just say that is a trend, a common trend, and it's been happening where employers are shifting or asking for employees to share in that cost. And as a CPA, I've been advising clients to consider it more so now than ever.
Yeah.
Because premiums did jump up 20% on average across the board.
Yeah.
And it's getting out of control, along with the other costs
Yeah.
that have increased.
And so, you know, one of the things that I understand, and you know, I've been in this line of work for about 20 years here, you know, 10 years here, but 20 years in Pennsylvania. And what we're seeing is that when employees have to participate in the process, they take it more seriously. You know, when I first started, you know, my first government job, I went to work, well, in Pennsylvania, I went to work for Phoenixville. I went to the doctor and I paid a $2 copay.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of incentive for me to make a choice and not go, or to go to a urgent care or not go to the emergency room. I think even going to the emergency room cost me $25 or something like that. I mean, like, what was the reason not to, right? And what we're finding is that as employees, if they're having a cost share in the process, they think about it a little bit more before they just make a gut reaction to just say, I'm just going to go to the emergency room when I have the flu, when all I really needed to go is go to an urgent care.
Need to go to bed, take some.
Yeah, or just go to bed and
Chicken soup.
yeah, you know, and so that's kind of what we're trying to do, is incentivize that. And by offering the savings, health savings, if somebody chose not to use it, then they can actually save some money and they would actually have some funds for future.
Yeah.
And so that was the reason why we did it, but mostly because I then controlled what the township costs were. We have a max. I know what my max is every year.
Yeah.
Some years we were spending, you know, a lot more than that when we were going the other way. And this way we have a max. We know what it is. We can budget it. We don't go over that unless an employee changes what their coverage is. We're pretty set. And so that's the reason why we did that. So we're going to talk about the things that have been, what are the increases that what are in the budget and what's there, and we can talk about what they are. And so first is we put in that $5,000 for the deer hunt for next year. So that's the one increase. I put it under legislative. I don't know where it fit. It's not a normal government kind of thing that fits under something. So I put it under legislative. It was the Board of Supervisors that wanted it. They get it. They get to pay for it. The other area that we increased was their training. And most of that is because every time we elect a new supervisor, we send them to some training. And so, and I didn't know if the new supervisor would go to the PSATS conference. But we also need to get them some emergency management training that's required by law if they want to be able, two things. One, if we want to get FEMA and PEMA reimbursements, our board has to go to training. And secondly, if they go, it helps us actually in the situation. They're better ready. They know the names and the things that we're talking about in those situations. So it's important that they go. Administration, actually, it's one of the few places we've actually reduced costs. I'm not talking about what the increase is in payroll here and all that. We can talk about that separately. This is one of the areas where we had some reduced costs. We found out that we could order paper by the pallet versus ordering paper by the box. Typically, we ordered like 5 to 10 boxes at a time. We're going to order the entire year's worth as a pallet in January. And we're going to save about $1,000 doing that. And we're going to save another $1,000 on office supplies by ordering.
Where do you store that?
Huh?
You have to store it here?
We have to store it, but we have some room over in the Public Works garage upstairs. It's fairly dry over there. I told them I wanted to try it 1 year and make sure that the paper doesn't curl and all of those kind of things by the end of the year, because that's my concern. But we're,
I apologize.
so we're going to try it for 1 year and see if it works. It's $1,000 savings. It makes sense. And if not, we'll go back to doing it the other way, but that's what we're doing. The finance area, the audit, we're anticipating about a $3,000 increase. The board did approve advertising to reappoint our current auditor for 1 more year, just to get through with this new cycle of a new finance director and get that done. Tax collector, there's some minor changes there. We know that the postage has gone up, some things like that. That's $1,100. Legal services, this goes back to contract negotiations with our legal folks. Those expenses aren't going down, they keep going up. So that's what that is. Increase in IT and communications. Most of that's related to some cyber security stuff that we need to do to upgrade our system, to protect our system. In fact, really all of that's right there. There's a slight increase in a couple other places, but most of it's right there. Facilities, I've talked about the custodial position. That's 98,000 between benefits and the pay. And that's assuming that that person's going to have a family coverage. If they don't have family coverage, we're going to save a little bit of money, but I got a budget for the worst case scenario, and that's what we did. Probably the biggest thing, oops, that's supposed to be a 0 behind that 25 should be 25,000. The comma's in the right place. The 0 is just missing. This was a change in our kilowatt hours, price per kilowatt, not per kilowatt hours. It was a 67% increase on generation. That's just been across the board. You probably have seen the increase in your electric. We had a really good price before that we were locked into for a period of time. They went out to bid again, so you get that big jump. So we had several years where we didn't get the increase. We got it all at one time, and that's what that is. Police, the things that we're looking about.
Really? Do you think that was the reason why?
Huh?
You didn't have increases the last couple of years, and all of a sudden you think that was levelized? Or is this just?
We were under a contract.
Okay.
And because we were locked into the contract, even though electric prices were going up for the average person, because you're not typically in a 5-year contract, that's what happened when they went out to rebid it again. Yeah, that's the good news, the bad news, right? In a 5-year contract, you get locked in.
Yeah, they didn't forget about us.
But at the end of the 5 years, and it's not with Pico. It's actually another company that's generating the electric. we're still paying PICO for distribution and transmission charges, which is different, but this is how you're buying your generation power.
Wow.
And so, down to the police, we're looking at about, I think we put in a basically 3% increase on all of our insurances based on what I'm hearing. It may end up being more than that, but I'm hoping that we keep it about 3% as an average across the board. And so that's what that is.
Do we have Steve, we have a notice period with the police where if they're intending on retiring, they have to give notice in advance type of thing?
So we have what we call a drop. And so the drop is a deferred retirement option plan where the officer announces that they're going to retire at a certain date. They actually retire and then they stay on the payroll for an additional number of years, whatever it's up, the maximum is
So they lock
5.
in on the pension formula and all.
So you lock in on your pension formula.
There's an incentive there for them.
But there's and so what they start doing is they start drawing their pension and they continue to work. So they've locked in their pension at the dollar amount when they enter the drop. And then that goes into a fund for them. And then when they retire, they get that entire lump sum as part of that. And then what that does for us is that we know when they're leaving. And so, for example, Chris is in the drop. We have an officer that's in the drop that leaves next year, anticipated. They could leave before that, before the end of their drop, but they can't go beyond that period. So when the 5 years is up, we kind of usher them out the door in that way. I will say an officer does not have to do that. So we had an officer who retired last year. He kind of let us know he was going to retire, but he didn't have to. He could have just retired in June when he wanted to, and he would have been gone.
Got it.
So there's nothing that forces them to, but the ones that give us that, it helps us know.
Do we have a mandatory retirement age?
We do not. It's illegal. Well, it would, I mean, it's considered age discrimination as long as they can still do the job. So. At least that's what I've been told, so.
Interesting.
But the way we've got the drop set up, we've got it set in such a way that
Yeah.
kind of encourages them to
Yeah.
go at a certain point, if they want to take advantage of the drop. So we actually know we have an officer who's retiring next year. So we put in for the new hire cost. That's a new uniform, cost of doing the
Training.
testing and all of that, the background check, those kind of things. So up until now, I don't know if you know, we're duly aligned or duly accredited internationally as well as state. We have a state accreditation with Pennsylvania, but we also have an international accreditation for our police department. We are one of a handful in the Commonwealth that has both. We are the only one in Delaware County that has both. So there's a lot of documentation that goes with that. You have to prove every policy you have that you follow it. And so you have to give examples of how you follow that policy. So there's a lot of documentation. We had an officer who was doing that for us. That officer has shared with us that they don't think they can continue to do that. They're having a new baby come along. And so they feel like they just don't have the time to keep investing in that. And so, or there's an outside service that will do that for $17,000. It's cheaper than adding another officer by far. And so, that's what we're going to do on that one. There is a computer program, upgrades. And then we also put the police cars back in the budget. And so that's part of that. In the fire department, the fire relief fund increased $17,600. I will say that's a pass through. What we get from the state, we pass it through to the fire company. So our revenues went up 17.6 and our expenses went up 17.6, but showing that it's a wash. We also anticipated an increase in their vehicle insurance based on what we have going. Under codes department, we increased the third-party inspections. Even though we're seeing a decrease in the number of permits overall, we anticipate a possible uptick in some housing permits next year because we have a land development program or land development that's before the board that I'm assuming the board's going to approve at some point, and we anticipate those houses will start being built.
Where would that be, Steve?
It down on Gradyville. And there's the other one that's up on Wayland. Why? No, I'm saying that wrong. Yeah, it's Wayland, right?
Yes, yes,
Yes. Right off Wayland. What? Yeah, right off
Where's
Whitehorse.
Wayland?
It's up at, you know where Whitehorse is?
Yeah.
At the top, if you go straight down that road, it just changes names.
Yep.
And
Oh,
so,
does it?
there's a subdivision there that's doing 17 homes. I think they've started 3 or 4 of them at this point.
Right.
And so we've brought in a third party to continue to do that. Training increase, we're going from the 18 to 21 code. So that we have to buy the code books, but there's also additional training that goes with all of that for our team. So we're doing that. Planning and zoning, we've increased the consulting fee. That's for the strategic and comp plan that we talked about. So we put that in. And then we've also increased the solicitor cost for zoning matters because we continue to have just an incredible number of zoning cases. I think there have been a couple months we've had to have 2 meetings, so we've just had so many zoning cases. So there, we did put in $5,000 in emergency management to help cover for large events, particularly with American 250 next year. We anticipate some larger events, making sure that our emergency management team has what they need and doing that. There's some equipment that we know we need to upgrade with them. Recycling contract went up 18,600. The leaf disposal costs, we anticipated going up 9,000. I will say, if this year's current were to hold, we might be able to make an adjustment on that. We actually are less in the first 4 weeks than we've been in the past. So we anticipate the last 4 weeks are either going to be really big or we're going to have a year where we're down and we're not sure why.
Or the leaves blew tomorrow.
Or the leaves flew someplace else, right? And so that's what we're looking at there. Snow removal, we increased salt. We backed it down a little bit last year and we ended up having to spend the money. So we went back and put it back in. Traffic control signals. There's some line painting that really needs to be done. And so we added that into the budget. We had some in there, but we needed to increase that.
I should just put, this street light at the top of our Bishop Hollow, is anything going on with that? Because I feel like that now that we're getting more populated or the traffic patterns have changed, that intersection is a problem. You know where I mean? And I don't know if that's state.
Three?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, state.
Bishop Hollow and Route
Yeah.
3.
That's state,
I feel
yeah.
like we need an arrow there. Maybe we should start putting it in there. I don't know how to start that process, but in other words, to turn left at where the
Yep,
Bishop
Go
Hollow,
west on 3.
to go left, it is confusion.
yeah,
And I
Okay.
was in an accident there personally
okay.
a year ago, but now having a year more of time to see what really goes on there, it's
It's a tough spot.
eye-opening. Yes, during peak hours, it's really a challenge. People don't know whether you're turning or going straight, and then all of a
And people
sudden,
do
everyone
both.
flies around you and.
Yeah,
Police probably already have statistics on how many.
we can look
incidents
into
they've,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that's like a
happening.
long-term thing, but I
Yeah,
figure a good
yeah.
time to mention. Okay.
Road maintenance, what we're finding is that just the roads, we're needing to spend more engineering.
I was gonna ask you, now we budget 50,000 a year for the road program. Is that holding up or are we just blowing past that?
Well, we actually took 200,000 out of the budget last year to make the budget work last year. So we've left 200,000 in, so we basically cut it in half. So the answer is I don't know yet, what that's going to do to where we're going to be long-term. So the good news is in the time that George has been here, which is just about 12 years now, I think, because I've been here 11, so actually closer to 13. We've done a little bit more than half of the roads.
Yeah.
We thought we would need to do, in 25-year period, we anticipated we would need to do that many roads every year. So, and we're a little bit ahead of where we needed to be. What we don't know, what we're finding is some of the roads we thought would hold up for 25 years aren't holding up for 25 years.
Right.
And so we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do going back. George and I have been looking at that. But it's the answer to your question is we probably need to figure out how to get back to the 400,000 that we had and be able to still do that, because I think it's going to be closer to 20-year turnaround on roads versus 25. Just the amount of traffic we
It's
have.
not just us, everywhere we drive.
It's, yeah, no, it's a challenge. But we had taken out, we didn't add anything last year, and we actually took out 200,000. Stormwater is another engineering piece that we're just spending more on the engineering, trying to evaluate ahead of time, making decisions before we can do projects. Historic Commission, we have an increase related to the Square Tavern. And then the Historic Society has asked about us picking up some more cost at the Paper Mill House. That's there. It's not in the budget at this point, but it's been brought up to the board as a possibility. Increase of park contract. This is for grass cutting. We anticipate that. The debt service increased 80,000 this year. And most of that's because of how I don't want to go into all the detail, but because of RAP, the way we were wrapped, the part of it was wrapped around the road program, and the road program went away, but the road program was being paid out of the liquid fuels. And so when that went away, it actually increased the amount in the general fund. Pensions did decrease to 223,000. That's because our pensions are now over 100% funded and really healthy. So the good news is that's good. The bad news is, that's where we are. And then we put in about 5,200 for projected costs related to insurance. I know this is hard to see. It's actually really hard to see. And so I'm going to talk through this real quick, what it is. And
Is this online, Steve?
This is not online yet. The board has not approved it yet.
Okay, so you can't put it up,
So
even as a draft.
It's a draft.
If you want to see it, just watch the YouTube of this meeting
Yes.
or the YouTube of the
Of the-
supervisors meeting, because the slides are in that YouTube.
Yep, they are. And so, again, revenue wise, you can look down through here and see, where we are. We're anticipating a slight increase in revenue and real estate taxes, about holding our own in regards, it's an increase over what we had budgeted, but it's kind of holding, what we think we're getting in other taxes, doing the same next year. Business license is going up just a little bit. And that's related to the fact, I think, we're doing a better job of staying on top of it. Zach's here and I'll give him a pat on the back for that one. He's been working really hard to make sure, that
Send him out with the big stick.
we send him out with a big stick and he does that. Would you see what that gentleman needs, please? And then, the one area that we are really anticipating going down is interest. We're seeing the interest rates drop. Plus our balances have gone down a little bit, so
Right.
we're anticipating that number going down. And so we're watching that. We may be able to do a little bit better in that area, but there's no way we're going to hit 300,000. because we're not even going to hit 300,000 this year. So the rents and royalties we're matching. Most of the rest of them are matching. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I'm going to jump down. The one area that we're showing a little bit of pullback in from what we think we're going to get this year's charge and services. If the land development pieces all go through and they get jumping on top of these, this number is going to go higher. But the reality is usually it takes 6 months after the board approves it before they ever even break ground.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to be approved until early part of next year, which means we probably won't get very many permits pulled until the end of next year. I think 2027 is when we'll really start seeing some of those numbers. And so I'm trying to be optimistic, but not overly optimistic in that timing. So we're just trying to figure that out. And then the rest of those are kind of just matching what we had this year, going down. And you'll see
You're
that
anticipating real estate transfer taxes being
kind of
pretty
even.
stable.
I mean, we're participating stable. If I was watching everything on the news, I should be actually pulling back. But Newtown's kind of been an anomaly in that people love to be here. People are buying and still coming in as the
Right, they had
real
that big
estate.
story in the Enquirer on Sunday about just the number of transactions dropping. The
Yes,
high-end ultra is kind of making the numbers, the dollar numbers skewed, but the number of mid-level transactions are way down.
and I'm hoping for the high ends that we're having built in town,
Yeah.
that they'll actually settle and we'll be
Keep
okay.
turning them, yeah.
They'll keep turning them, you know. Just an error on our part. It should be equal. It should be equal. Well, I say that. There is an issue there that I think it's going to drop down some. And that is because charges for services, one of the things that goes in there is every time somebody comes in for a permit, they pay $100 and for a review. And so typically when the permit gets issued, we then take that $100 and apply it to the permit. We haven't done that step yet. And so when we apply that $100 to the permit, we're probably going to lose about half of that revenue. And that's the one reason why it drops. But I do think it's actually going to be a little bit higher than 63, just taking a look at the number. But it's not going to be 118 or whatever that number is. But that's something that's a very heavily manual transaction. And so Tom's going to have to spend several hours for every month going through and doing that. And so
Finding those $100.
finding those, well, and then matching them up to the permits that were issued. But the idea, what was happening in the past, and so the board agreed that we should charge something, is people were coming in asking for a review. Andy would spend 3 or 4 hours doing a review, 2 hours doing a
And they never
review,
follow through.
and then they never took the permit. And it's amazing the number of people that don't do that. I mean, it's a high number, but we were expending a lot of time trying to do that. And so that's why that was done. Under expenses, I've told you where most of the increases are. The difference between what I told you as the amounts that were anything other increase is then based on wages and benefits. So most of that is in here. You can see as we go through. Now, one of the things Tom and I are working on, if we can get the system to do what we want it to do, we're having a little bit of trouble, but we think we know what the problem is and we'll get it squared away before we actually do the presentation next week to the board formally. We're going to break out. We have 2 employees that most of their time is spent working for the municipal authority. And so we're going to break out those costs so that we know that where that cost is, and the municipal authority reimburses us for that. So it's kind of a wash cost, but it would be easier if that was broken out. Currently, part of that cost is in Tom's area and part of that cost is in administration. And so we're going to put those together. We've talked about possibly breaking out the cost of the human resources as well, because we really need to have more focus on human resources and what we're doing here. And so I want to start building some budget around that, making sure that we're taking good care of our employees. It's a huge resource that we have, and we need to make sure we're doing good with it. So if those costs come out, you may see some of these numbers change just slightly. They're not, the number's going to be the same. It's just going to be where it'll take it and move from this bucket to this bucket, kind of thing. But at the bottom line, if I go to the next, whoops. If I go, whoa, what happened? You'll give me a moment. I will go back and get what I had. Yeah, well. Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure.
And most of the time it's for myself that I'd be using it.
Maybe what Steve's getting at, a question. Sure. You haven't mentioned the PGA, either cost or expense.
So PGA, we don't know yet totally what the costs are going to be. And we're still working with them on that. We do know anticipated revenues about 1.5 million that we're going to get. It is one-time revenue and we're treating it that way. So I think there will be some costs that need to happen from that. Just we've got a lot of things going on in town that's just going to cost us. And so I see it trying to cover most of the costs.
So you're hoping that worst case scenario, it's a push, revenue.
Oh, I think we're going to have more revenue than we are expenses by any means.
Oh, great.
And
Why bring it into town if you're not going to make money off it?
well, in the past, we've never made money off of golf tournaments coming into
Really?
town. In fact, usually it's been an expense for us at the end of the day.
Wow. That's
But it is really good for our businesses. Our businesses do really well. And so it's a good investment. I think this is probably the best investment in Newtown. We will get worldwide coverage that we just can't imagine. There will be media trailers from literally all over the world here for this event. This is bigger than anything. I'm saying it's bigger than anything we've had in the past. Back in 1962, I only know that because I remember reading it and thinking that was the year I was born. And so back in 1962 was the last time the PGA was here. So it was a couple weeks ago. And but if you remember back in 62, the coverage would have been a whole different world and that all would be very different. So this is going to be a big deal. And so they're going to do a whole piece on Newtown. I think that we're getting a great opportunity to have ourselves showcased as being able to handle a really top quality type of an event.
I live over in that area. So are they going to close? Are they going to close St. David's Road and all of that?
Yeah, during the event itself, during the day, St. David's Road will be closed down to traffic other than local traffic. If you live in the area, you'll be able to get to your house. But we're not going to be allowing just traffic going through. There'll be, I mean, we have a lot of security that's involved in this. We're going to be involving probably 10 to 15 other police departments to make it work, as well as having the FBI and the state involved. It's a big deal. And we're working now with Delaware County's emergency management. We're working with Pennsylvania's emergency management to be ready in case something goes wrong. I mean, the last thing you want is a huge thunderstorm to come through. You have 50 to 60,000 people standing in metal stands. out in the, I mean, like, what are you gonna do? And so how do we evacuate and all of those kind of things? We're working through all of those things with the PGA. As we get closer, we'll do more, and about what it's gonna look like. Okay. Coming down, again, I've kind of explained all the increases, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. We're at 12.9 million in expenses. So our position financially, at the end of 24, we were about 7.15. We anticipate, as I told you, it was very close, would be a 7.155, like big jump at the end of 25. And then, and I said that may get a little bit better. And then finally, you can see we're using about $1 million if fund balance if we didn't do anything going into next year. So under Streetlight Fund, I'm going to blow through these others really quickly, but I'm going to give them to you just so you know. I'm watching our time and we'll quick go through this. We're anticipating about 51,000 in revenue, 66,000 in expenses. And so, and that's okay. We've got a really good fund balance there. And the intention was to start using that fund balance up, dropping it down a little closer. We don't want it to get much below 100, but we want to keep it about there as we think about what we're going to have to start replacing some of those street lights in the future. We want to keep some money available for that. The hydrant fund was 99,000, almost 100,000 in revenue, 98,000 in expenses. And so when we look at that, that's about 101. That's one that we may try to drop a little bit. We don't need that kind of money in the hydrant fund. Our focus there is just paying the water bill to Aqua. We just want to make sure we have enough to do that every year. And so that's the key. The ARPA funds, we're going to finalize everything there. We're going to have a little bit of interest. And next meeting, this coming up Monday, Tom's doing checks and we'll have spent out all the ARPA monies. And that'll be done. And so that'll be at zero next year. The notes for 2016, that's a similar kind of thing. We're finishing up on the building. And so those dollars will all go away. And the same thing is true with the GEO bonds from 2016. We finished up with the roof and all of that money's going to go away. So that kind of takes care of those funds. So we won't have those going into 2026 going forward unless we do another borrowing at some point. We anticipate war on drugs. They usually try to buy a couple bulletproof vests every year out of that money. And so that's where that is. And we'll end the year, anticipating ending the year of 2026 with about $20,000 in that fund. Those monies were actually confiscated monies. We are not getting those monies anymore. It used to be the county shared those monies with us. Now the county's holding on to those monies. That's kind of where we are. But as we spend it, we're being cautious in how we spend it. And we're really spending it for things that are allowed to be in that way. Police donations, we anticipate having about $800 in interest. I don't anticipate any. You never know if you're going to get a donation for something. Right now, we're not anticipating any. And so we think we'll be about 55,000 there at the end of the year. Open space, there's some monies going around there, and we anticipate that we're going to spend most of that on Greer Park when we do the Greer Park project. So there may be a few more dollars there depending on what other projects come in. Capital funds, I'm going to really quick go through this. There's a ton of stuff in here and try to go through. I don't know that we will spend all this, but these are things we think we need to do in the next 48 months. So interest-wise, we think we're going to be about 100,000 roughly. We also know from state and federal grants, we've got about 450 out there that we can collect. Legislative and administrative, I've put those two together. Most of that's a document management piece that we want to do, and that's really getting all of our documents scanned and getting all that taken care of. There's a little bit of other money to make sure that we're set on how to be able to do the reading of all those documents once we get that done. But that's to really start helping us to deal with just the excessive amount of paper that we end up having to store. We have a whole top of the Public Works building, the whole one side of it
Records.
is just full of paper records, and some of them are required to be maintained forever. And so we're trying to get those for sure to be scanned, and the state's starting to allow that to be a legitimate document, and that we don't have to keep the paper.
Digital.
We can go digital instead. And besides that, it's a lot faster to find than having to look through a box. So it really is a matter of saving time with people. Under IT, there's $3,250 that we haven't spent this year that I'm anticipating we're going to have to do next year. It's for some switches. And so that's what that is. Under facilities, it's a variety of things. There's some signs out front. There's the lobby, not the lobby, the library, well, the lobby too. But the library's patio is actually starting to sink. So we need to get out there and fix that. And so there's money in there for that. There's money in there for the police that's related to some pieces that they need related to purchasing of, and I'm drawing a blank right now, but we may actually purchase them this year, but it will be like a ATV and a couple other type vehicles like a camera system that's a portable camera system, and doing a little bit more with the drone that we've purchased, making sure that we're set with them. Fire department with that 100,000 is to help them with their hose tower. They need to do some finalizing so they can dry their hoses. And then the ambulance, we haven't spent a lot on the ambulance over the last several years, but they've purchased a new ambulance that's actually got some abilities that our past ambulance didn't have, to carry some medicines that are highly temperature controlled. And so we are going to have the ambulance bay cooled during the summer to keep that ambulance at a certain temperature. And we're also going to have it kept at it can't get too cold in the winter. And so we're going to have that ambulance bay closed off. And we think we can do that for about 25,000. And so that's what that is. Recycling, George was going to purchase some new recycling containers this year. Poor guy just hadn't had a chance. So we put it in the budget again for next year. Under Public Works, most of this money is for a new Mack truck. Those things are just like, it's incredible how expensive they are. Traffic control devices, we're working on a project, a Green Light Go project with the state. And if we get that grant, then we would be able to do that project. But that's like some significant changes on all of our traffic control devices to go from, I forget what the image is now that they take where the lane and where the cars are. It actually changes the way it's a better system. We're having some glare problems and we don't get the best reading of how many cars are in line. This will actually help us know how many cars are in line. It helps the light to know when it really needs to change. And so that helps improve that. So it'll improve traffic in town. We put about 150,000 in for other stormwater projects. We just keep having stormwater issues around town that we have to address. We do have a project to finish out sidewalks along Bishop Hollow Road. And so that's in there. We have projects for active recreation. Part of that is putting Everett Greer Park, putting in a new playground. It's also doing some work. Our current backboards at the basketball court are starting to show some cracking. Right next door here. So that includes that. Trails and paths recreation. This, I think, is signage, if I recall right. Historic properties. we think we need to drop about between the paper mill house and the John West house, about 600,000. Between air conditioning, redoing the air conditioning at the John West house, putting a new roof on the John West house. There's a plumbing issue at the John West house. The windows and the stucco at the paper mill house all need to be done. So those are those dollars. And then the parks, that's a combination of things like some new signage as well in those in the park areas, and also we know we need some repairs to a couple things, like the walking bridge over at the Drexel Lodge is basically rotting, and we have to get that fixed. It's over the dam, and there's some minor dam repairs that need to be done. And so we're going to spend about $3,200,000 there. And if you look what that does, it takes us down.
Grants at all, they're offsetting, I know it's tough to see.
Yeah, we've been trying to get grants for some of this stuff. Some of this we can maybe get them, but it depends on how long it takes to get them, whether we can wait that long to do the project. The John West house, we know we can probably get about $100,000 if they'll turn it around pretty quickly. So we're hoping for that. We might be able to wait another year. That's why I said potentially 48 months. We're going to try to apply for some grants for some of this to help offset it. But as you can see, we would deplete our fund balance pretty significantly if we do all this. Liquid fuels, we anticipate about 438,000. I think that we're not going to spend 500,000 next year. I put that in thinking we were going to do a small road program. I think we're going to hold off a year in doing the road program. So that's probably going to go away. But even if we take that back, we're going to be pretty close there, as you can see. Stormwater revenue, this is our money that we collect for that 10 years worth of going back and evaluating people's stormwater projects. And so we will end with about 328,000. And that is the budget for 2026. What questions do you all have?
Presuming then the gap is wide open in terms of how much of that supervisors cost cut as compared to the rate.
Yeah, I have to tell you right now, I don't know where the supervisors are with this. You know, they haven't really given me I presented it to them last meeting. They said, go back and find more savings.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know where to find much more savings. If anybody wants to sit down with me and go over the budget between now and Monday, I'm happy to sit down with you and spend a couple hours looking at the budget. Tom and I have probably spent more hours than either one of us care to look at it on trying to find a dime here.
Still early in terms of what the prognosis is.
I mean, I know they don't want to do an increase that it would require. I mean, right now it's a significant increase. And so that's not they're not willing to do that. They've told me that. I just don't know what that number is and what it looks like. And basically the things that I can take out, I could take out the police cars. You know, if we choose not to replace police cars next year, we can make that option. We took them out this year. And then based on the little bit of extra revenue we had, we added them back in this year. So we could try the same thing next year and see what happens. I just don't know where else to really take a number. Obviously, we could take the custodial position out again, but to be honest with you, we really need that. And it's
really a savings. Like you're not taking somebody from over there.
Excuse me?
You're not taking a whole group of people over there and bringing them here.
Yeah.
Right, so that's
It's just a push.
It's just a push. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, like, can I get us down to a gap of about 800,000? Probably.
Yeah.
But that's about it. And that's still a big number. You know, so,
Okay.
I don't know the answer at this point. But that's where we are.
The thing that's not being said is revenues are flat for years
Yeah.
and expenses are up for years.
Yeah.
And you take from the fund, that this doesn't go up? So the answer, there has to be more revenue.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, your capital fund, if you were to spend it, you're basically saying 2027,
There's
you have
no,
no money for capital,
correct.
zero.
It's exactly right, because we have a minimum requirement to maintain 100, I mean, to maintain 1 million in the capital fund. I mean, we could move over a little bit from the general fund, that's actually a little high, for what we need, but that's where we would end up.
But if you're using the general fund to balance the budget
Yep,
each year,
you can't keep
you know,
doing it.
that's, you can do it for another year, 2 years, whatever, but it's just, you know,
And-
they're outraged at the county because the county is doing what basically has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I have to tell you, we have not added, I mean, I showed you our ads
Yeah.
of, I mean, we didn't add a program, right? I mean, this is maintaining what we have, basically. There's a little bit of, you know, a couple things under our capital that would be ads, if you looked at it, and we could make a decision not to spend those next year, but really, under our general fund, we as staff said, there's lots of things we want to do, but there's just no dollars to do them. And so we're just trying to maintain what we have.
Well, that's where I was just gonna go, Tom. Maybe we'll move, let's move to new business. There, you may have saw this in the Inquirer. Swarthmore, the voters turned down, a earned income tax. And what's now being proposed is an emergency services tax, which I've never heard of. And they're looking at whether or not, and it would be a special charge based upon the assessed value of the property. But there, you have your regular property tax, and then you're gonna have this add-on surcharge called this emergency services tax. So yes, it's another tax increase. But, and I'm sure there's tons of information behind this as to, will the public accept this? And this view is, no, we turned down the tax increase on the earned income. We're not gonna let you do this. Versus, no, we buy it. What has to be done to convince the voting public that this is an appropriate path. So I realize this just came out. So maybe what we could do is table this to a next meeting, since this isn't gonna happen in the next 4 weeks. But it'd be something that I think this committee could investigate and maybe add some input into this versus unless the solicitor or someone else is investigating. I don't know those things.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We've looked at several different things, and there's a couple ways to look at this, but I mean, they've all got
Tax increase.
they're all basically costing
Right.
property owners or homeowners or people that
Residents.
live here more money.
What you
And
call it versus.
yeah,
what it
it's,
is.
you know, and I mean, I know that somebody's floated the idea of, do we actually now have a fire tax? Well, I can take and move the fire department expenses out of the general fund budget and move them over here, right? But that doesn't change what people are paying, you know, I just call it a different name. And I may, instead of being, you know, we keep 1.9777 for the general fund, but then I do a fire tax increase. The bottom line is your taxes just went up. You know, I mean, I haven't changed anything. I've just changed the name of it. My challenge has always been, and my challenge to the board has been, every time that you break it out and say it's designated for something. And so if you do a fire tax, you have the streetlight tax, you have the hydrant tax. Every time you do that, I cannot use, if there happens to be excess revenue in that area, I can't use that excess revenue for anything other than what that is for. And so I've always said, when you have room in your general fund piece, And by the way, we can go up to 14 mils and we're at 1.997. So we're at the very low end of
Yeah,
what we
low
could
range,
be.
yeah.
You know, there, you lose the freedom by breaking it out.
I like that.
Now,
Smart.
the other side of that is that if you do it for the purpose of saying you're setting money aside for something, it also then keeps it set aside for that purpose. Like there's two sides to every piece.
Sure.
But and I don't want to lose sight of that in what it is, you know, like if we say it's for fire and we limit it just to fire, we limit that amount all the time just to fire, and it's there, and you don't have to worry that one year the board gets the idea that they no longer want to fund the fire for that amount, right?
Well,
You know,
I was more thinking on the horizon, I
yeah.
realized.
So
Is the fire really gonna have to roll in? And is that 2 years out? Is that 3 years out? Or it's still a TBD?
it's still TBD, but in regards to, I mean, I think it's gonna happen. We are having less volunteers than we've had
Right.
before. And at some point, the fire department is going to become a paid department. When it does, I promise you, I say this and it's kind of scary as a taxpayer, but basically, we're gonna come pretty close to taking the police department budget, and we're gonna take that amount and we're gonna add that to our budget. And when we do, because the fire companies like the police department, it's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week operation. It's probably somewhere between $4 and $5 million. Right now, if you look at what we're bringing in about 7 million. So I mean, it's like almost, it's not quite doubling our budget, but it's pretty close. And the biggest difference between the fire department and the police department is the fire trucks cost more. You know, I mean, that's the biggest difference, right? I mean, I can put 10 police cars on the street for the same price I put one fire truck. You know, it's just, that's the difference. And so what that looks like going forward, that's a challenge. And do I think it's coming? I do. I just don't know when. My hope is that we continue to figure out how to work across municipal lines, because I don't think we need 49 fire departments in, you know, Delaware
Yeah.
County, you know, but we need probably 30, and they need to be strategically placed, and they need to be, you know, well done.
Winners and losers. Oh, yeah.
You know, and so what does that look like? And I mean, there's some challenges.
And you could say the same for the recycling, that maybe it makes more sense to have a couple municipalities look into running it themselves.
Yeah.
Because that increase from last year was ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's all of those things.
And you can take revenue bonds, right? If you're developing a revenue stream, you
Yeah.
could borrow
Yeah.
and create the revenue stream to repay
Yeah.
the bond.
You gotta go.
All right, yeah.
All right, yeah.
Real quick, Lisa, on our ongoing saga with the fiscal trend, because obviously you did the draft. Do we have like a conclusion? I realize your budget's done now. Are we like a month away from having something that we could put out, or at least put in front of this committee?
We at least have a date that we are going to meet, which
Yeah.
is coming up in December. We're
Perfect.
going to meet,
Okay.
so we'll have more.
So I realized Tom was totally occupied with budget. Okay, so we can circle back on that. Okay, good.
I think this is really, with this year's budget, this thing will show is revenue flat.
Well, that's why,
I mean,
Yeah.
this is really, and it's, you know, the projection is it's staying flat.
well,
There's nothing,
but you can.
there's no
At
new
the,
source of
at the
revenue.
end of the day, you can see there's. The likelihood of a tax increase, I would think from what you just presented, Steve. Likelihood of a tax increase. In anticipation of that, public communication regarding the trend and the positives that have been done, I think are really going to be critical. Or you're going to get a backlash like what the county is getting, is they've done a terrible job on communicating what's going on and all the trends. And we're gonna fall into the same trap if we don't communicate. This is what's been going on, and this is directionally why things are where they are. Here's a story. We good? Public comment, I see none. Sorry, John.
Auditor question.
Oh,
Where are we on the audits? And the 990s?
First of all, the audit. I'm sorry. First of all, I apologize. 422 people drive like it's snow in the rain. I could have been at Cape May Point. That's my house. Could have get to Rich's house. Anyway, submitted 2023, 2024 for both the municipal authority and the township. Have testing requirements in-house that we're addressing right now. Few open items as they pop up. We get dashboard emails practically every day that I respond to. So time frame is we're going to hash that out within the next week, so we know specifically where we are. Our goal is that 2025. We're pretty not pretty. We're actually aside from a couple of the adjustments Steve mentioned regarding the manual things I need to address, regarding permitting, things like that. Our target is 2025 is going to be completed in a timely fashion next year. So we're going to have 3 done in the span of 9 months. You know, given 9 months to, I'm looking at probably June of next year when 2025 will be done based on discussions we're having with the auditor. So it's a roll forward, but it's a lot of time spent, a lot of commitments, get things to where they need to be. I've caught up a whole lot, so.
So just to state, we still have to still have to issue for 2024.
Correct.
5 will be done earlier next year.
Much earlier. Then we're on course too. I too was born in 1962, but my wife said I need to work till I'm 80, so I'm good.
any other points? See no public comment. I see no other points. We will adjourn. It's 9:20.